Hi everyone, and thank you for subscribing to my channel. Today I want to speak about a number of reports that were issued in Ireland over the past number of days. One from the Economic Social Research Institute, the ERSI, and the other from Goodbody Inheritance Division. Now this was fascinating, these reports, and it shows the disparity in Irish society as we see deepening inequalities and deepening divides in terms of wealth and income. I did a video a number of weeks ago around income inequality in Ireland, and I'll add a link to that video in the comments below. But today I want to speak about the issue with these two reports that show deepening divides in Irish society. I'll start with the ERSI report, which speaks to low-income households in Ireland. It stated that 1 in 2 low-income households in Ireland made risky financial changes due to the cost of living disaster. Now, we've seen extortionate price increases, in particular over the past number of years. Inflation is still rising, well above the levels it was a number of years ago. But in real terms, we've seen people's incomes being dramatically reduced, and especially those who are on limited or fixed incomes as well, more being driven into poverty and deprivation. 16% currently of people are in deprivation in Ireland. And would you believe it, a country that they say is exceedingly wealthy for the multinationals and the global corporations and the billionaires, and for the very wealthy in society, but not for ordinary people who pick up the tab and suffer the consequences of successive government policies. Now, what's important with this is this report was issued, or conducted rather, in May and June of last year. So obviously in the last year we've seen worsening inequality in Irish society, and it really shows that people are struggling to get by day to day. They're forcing themselves going into rent arrears, or going because of extortionate rents, and they're making choices whether to heat their homes or eat, or perhaps even pay their rents. These are becoming really Hobson's choices, essentially, because it's just forcing more and more people, as I said, into dire straits and adding stress, turmoil, misery onto more and more people's lives in Ireland, when people are struggling even to put food on the table. Now, it states as well, this report, that entrance arrears is the most stressful predicament that could face ordinary people. Now, this goes without saying, because we've always known the generations, even before us, people who've always said that they've made sure they paid their way before they would actually look after themselves, essentially. So pay your bills, as most people were brought up in that way, to before they had any money for discretionary income for whatever they wanted to spend it on themselves. And in particular, people have been pushed to the pin of their collar in the last number of years, following the COVID lockdowns and the magic money tree being printed, which has really devalued ordinary people's money, but again transferred more money into the coffers of the very wealthy and the bankers. Now, people were also asked in the survey what would they need help with most. If they were listed a list of items such as energy bills, rents, health and day-to-day expenses, and what came out on top was energy bills. Now, this was last year, but of course we're going to be expecting an increase in energy prices coming into April, into this month as well. So we're going to see these companies are going to work in tandem together to push energy prices up on people. And they always generally do it, in particular coming into the summer months in Ireland, but they'll all work in lockstep together. Now, the Minister for Finance, or Minister for Public Expenditure rather at the moment, Pascal Donoghue, has been speaking about not increasing the VAT rate on energy bills as well. But again, it's nothing about capping the profits of these big energy oligarch corporations. And I did a video on that a number of months ago as well, about the whole scam in the energy industry. Previously, before privatisation, or liberalisation as the European Union like to call it, we had the cheapest prices in Europe, and now we have the highest. So let's factor into what's going on the other side of society of the haves versus the have-nots. We have a massive increase in wealth in the last number of years. We've seen a threefold increase in household wealth since 2012, where it's about 1.2 trillion euro now in household wealth. Huge increase when you consider the European Union, where the average increase is about 50%. But where has it gone? It hasn't gone into the coffers of ordinary people. It's gone into the pockets of the very wealthy. Now, currently, the top 16% in society have about 27% of the wealth, the household wealth. Now, that's obviously invested in households' wealth in around housing and on deposit, financial assets, financial investments as well that people have. And as I said, this has rose threefold since 2012. You couldn't really make this up. When more and more people are struggling to get by, this is just... And more people, as I said, are struggling in Ireland. Now, what's really, really fascinating with this report also as well is the bottom 50% in Ireland have 9% of the wealth. So essentially, as more and more people are being priced out of owning their own home, ever entertaining the prospect of owning their own home, in particular the extra pressure on the services such as accommodation services as well, because of the immigration chaos which is continuing unabated by the Irish political establishment. This is going to create catastrophic issues moving into the future. Now, it's happening at the moment in terms of the social disorder and social unrest as well, and we can see that in terms of issues rising up and down the country, but in particular this will arise even more as time progresses, because it's just nonsensical that this could continue, because it shows you the massive divide in Irish society. And many of those who have so-called haves would be supporting the status quo, would be supporting government policies, and would be supporting the same agenda that the government will always represent as their coffers increase. And what's really important with this as well is the amount of inherited wealth. And this is fundamentally the shift in Irish society which is going to impact people most of all, because we've always seen inherited wealth. We've seen it internationally, but in particular it's becoming a really significant factor here in Ireland economically. And this will widen the divide again in society. And this is at the same time in terms of there's no even prospect of looking at a wealth tax for the very high earners in society, and perhaps looking at something like capital controls. But of course they won't look at anything like that, because they're more interested in working around with the big financiers to transfer capital wherever the hell they want, to make massive profits at the expense of ordinary people. And if you consider this report also with the Economic Social Research Institute, what's important is that a lot of people aren't even accessing benefits that they're entitled to. This is interesting because at the same time we've seen citizens' information centres close down. We've also seen many more accesses to services becoming quite prohibitive and quite difficult to achieve because of bureaucracy, because of burdensome rules on people, and a lot of people aren't even aware of a lot of their benefits. But of course this is all done by design, because at the same time it benefits the divides in society. And at the sharpest end you see people, for instance, falling into homelessness. You see the mental health disaster in Ireland with people internalising issues because they can't afford to get by day to day. This is not a civilised society. This is not a proper republic that serves the interests of the people. It's a republic in name only that's been sold off to the big corporations and the very wealthy at the expense of ordinary people. We need a redistribution of wealth in our society, and it starts by people having those conversations in their communities, standing up and demanding fundamental systemic change within this rotten, corrupt system. While they're more interested in grandstanding and talking nonsense around confidence motions and account Corla and all this type of stuff, rather than deal with the really underlying systemic inequalities that are being driven by a corrupt system that benefits the very wealthy at the expense of ordinary people. So thanks a lot for the support of my videos, really appreciate them, and please keep sharing them. I'm very grateful to everybody who continues to share my videos far and wide, and also please continue to comment and support my work whatever way you can. So thanks for everybody who continues to share my videos, and it's important now to get the message out far and wide and start those conversations yourselves, and use your own platforms as well to get the message out to what's really going on in our society. So thanks for the support, and slán from Dublin. Take care.